Good morning, Rabbi Sai. Lili Nishmasi Mimirosi Bas Mordechai. We will start off with a kapitel Tehillim, kapitel Kuf Lamed Mechaye Mesim Berachamim Rabim Soymech Neuflim Veroife Choilim Umatir Asurim. To think about it, 4-year-old girl that her parents were killed in front of her eyes. Right now, she's below the ground with strangers that she doesn't know for over a month. And we got a daven for the 5,000 injured, for those who are nifter, for the chayalim who are right now, as we speak. We have a schos to learn Torah when the people in their country, in Eretz Yisrael, in our country, are asleep, usually at this time. We, in Chutz La'aretz, can learn Torah in their schos and say some Tehillim. So we'll say together, B'kavana, Shir Hamalois Mimamakim Krosicho Adonai Adonai Shema V'Koili Yenos Delagashuvois L'Koi Dachanunoi Im Avoinoi Sishmorio Adonai Miyamoid Ki Imchas Lichol Imanti Vorei Kivisi Adonai Kivson Nafshi V'Ledeveroi Echolti Nafshi Ladinoi Mishorim Laboiker Shemrim Laboiker Yachel Yisrael El Adinoi Kim Adinoi HaChesed V'Arbeimoi Fidus V'hu Yivdes Yisrael Mikol Labanisov Acheinu Kol Beis Yisrael Anesunim B'Tzoro V'Shivyo Hoim Din Bein Bayom U'Bein Bayabosho Hamochim Rachim Aleim Yitzim Mitzor L'Revacho Me'afel Loiro U'Mishivu L'Geula Hashto V'Gelov Zman Korif V'Nimar Omein. The shir is dedicated to the schus of the chayalim, of those who are kidnapped, those who are captured, those who need a rafur shlema, beruchnius, begashmius, but how do you say it? And up here, emotionally and physically, the mishpachas who need a lot of help. So we'll read a couple of emails here. This one is from Aaron Earps. After spending Shabbos with the family, friends asked me, what was the highlight? I say the entire Shabbos was a massive burning fire. The unity was not shaykh. I'll take out a 30-year mortgage to be part of the Shabbos. From the beginning till after the recruiting phone calls. We did recruiting phone calls, I mentioned it. Probably like 200-300 people sitting in the room making phone calls is unbelievable. I'll say one thing that I thought I would be smiling the whole Shabbos. I love the speaker, Ripwaya and others. But Rabbi Ben Shushan Shmuz got me to cry in public. As well, once again, when Rebelli spoke by the sea, I had tears down my cheeks again. For those who were there would understand. After falling in love with the shir, next step is to get others to join. So through talking to some friends and through shoving free gemaras into people's hands, I've gotten over 20 people to join and counting. Now here's the interesting part. When Yavamas came around, I did fall off. One day, one of my friends tells me, you know that I owe you a huge thank you. I ask him, for what? He says, for getting me the free Gemara, and I'm doing the daf since. Then came his question that hit me. Are you still doing the daf with the rebelli? I'll admit I lied. Oh, for sure, I said. I got to say now, it was the best lie I've ever said because that got me thinking, how can I get people to join and me, myself, fall off the bandwagon? You know, literally in the last, I want to say, week, 5-6 people told me the same exact thing, that they fell off the bandwagon, and the person that saved them was the person that they got to join the daf. It's another good reason to get people to join. And I told them, and I said this again, it's an upshad in mitzvah gereris mitzvah. You do a mitzvah, and it's gerer you. It schleps you back in. You do that mitzvah, that person comes and saves you, pulls you out of the cesspool or whatever you are. Guess what? And I not only got back on, I continued, went back to catch up on my own time after doing the daily daf. Now, as always, I had the excuse of got no time. So I started waking up earlier, about 4 a.m. Since the day isn't long enough, I got rid of Netflix. So I have more time. I do some catching up in that time. Yes, through so much extra time, I was able to finish Shas, besides from my daily Daf Yomi with the Rebelli. As for life change, yes, I do make less money these days. Is this some kind of joke? These days, but Baruch Hashem, pressure and worry about Pernasa, I left that out of my daily schedule. Sometimes all one needs is a little bit of patience and some sacrifice. The way Aaron Hakohein did it, be successful in all that you do, you think and do. And healthy, wealthy, Yiddish nachas for all your kids and Talmidim, your Talmids and Rosh Hashanah, Daf, Beis, Aaron Earps. I got this. I put this email in. I got this today because my son, who's probably going to show up any minute, maybe he's here, maybe not. Oh, and his friend Yonatan and Ilan, we went on a special trip, a father-son trip, and he invited some friends. I'm not going to tell you where, but maybe through this email you'll figure it out. Dear Rav Eli, I must join the countless others in saying that your shir and the daf has changed my life immeasurably for the better and helped me through both smooth and rocky times. Learning with you has followed me an incredibly positive constant through multiple occasions around the globe in recent years. I want to take this opportunity to express my deepest gratitude to you for all you do. I'm going to have to finally send one of those days video of my little kids doing the good morning Rabbi say which has become one of my favorite things. Oy vey, what was the guy's name? From Boca, the guy that came yesterday. Showed me a very nice video of his kids. He said they never trained this kid to do it. He was just saying, one day he said, good morning, Rabbi, and his 9-month-old or something goes, So he said, you see, they just pick it up. It's in the house and they...
Simcha Firestone?
No, not Firestone. Joburg, Jubin. Maybe I'm just making that up. Okay, that's some other guy told me his name was. He said he's a Jew from Cuba, so he called himself Jubin.
Yeah, it's a Miami.
Yeah. You recently mentioned the truth that in these times it's so important for Jews, and more so visibly from yidden, to exercise the constitutional and God-given Second Amendment right to legally bear fire for self-defense. Listen, I just read somebody's email. I personally think it's not a bad idea. We should do some shtadlus. The shul should have people like that, especially the way I felt in Chicago with the increasing violence and everything, and the guy that got killed yesterday. What was it? Yesterday in Los Angeles, 2 days ago. Right to send a contact to the whole MDY community for all you in here, for an expert attorney specializing in everything having to do with firearms, gun policy, and Second Amendment law. He was instrumental in the court, the Shabbos forced New York to begin issuing pistol permits, and is one of the leading national attorneys in this field. He represents Jews all over the country against anti-Semitism in both state and federal court. He's also my dear brother. His name is Edward Paltzik. His email is epaltzik@gmail.com. Kitzer, anti-Semitism, the First Amendment. Needless to say that today my son got a nice gift. It's beautiful. He'll be happy to show it to you. And because of him, today's shir is a little shvach. Had less hours to spend. Traveling to one store, that's all. Okay. That being said, we go weiter. Harav Rebelli Shlita. First of all, I'd like to thank you for an amazing Shabbos spiritually, emotionally, and of course physically. Before I joined your show, I was learning about 2 to 3 hours a day, but sadly, only tefillah I did at all was a 5-minute shachris. Never made brachas, etc. Since joining your shir, thanks to Hashem, and you have been davening all tefillahs with a minyan, etc. Basically, starting acting like a Jew should. Like I mentioned, a few people came over to me at the Siyum, at a Chassidish guy with the long beard. The whole thing said the same exact word for word. Really doesn't make sense. I'm currently learning less than I was, but it's changed me completely. You must have an amazing schos. Thank you so much. Your Talmud Anonymous. He put his name in the email thing, but I took out his last name. Please get the shir back to MDY. It's just not the same shir when you're not there. Here's just some pictures. I didn't really put many pictures of the actual Siyum in New York. Here's a picture of Shabbos. It's a little blurry, and I like the one on the left because it just shows that's Avi Kamyansky and Morty Rubin, Benny, Yossi Klein, and what's his name, Simcha from Manchester. But you see 3 Streimlach, a guy that shaves his head, a guy that came out, it's the gamut. And look at this picture. Over here, you have 2 Streimels. You have Mr. Firestone, Simcha. You have a guy there with a ring you can't really see. You have a Lubavitcher. You have a guy with a black hat. A guy with a red sweater. A guy with a breast of yarmulke putting his hands up to Shemayim. Kids, you have a guy with a black hat and a beard. You have it all. There's a lot of Hasidim there in the background too. Wow. Okay. So that was the atmosphere was just that of Achdos, and everybody's welcome, and everybody's part of it, and everybody felt like they were family. And here's another picture of a guy with a giant yarmulke, and and a guy with a very, very tiny yarmulke sitting together at the shir at the hotel over there. It shows that somebody sent me this picture. Yisrael Goldstein, the photographer, said this touched up the whole siyum. By the way, you guys over there, you're not going to be able to see the screen. If you want to see the screen, it's over here. So it might be a better idea to sit there. Oh, and first of all, MDY wants to wish a tremendous mazel tov to Rochel the barber, who brought in hundreds and hundreds of people to the shir. Everybody that comes to take a haircut by him, he just, before you take a haircut, you have to swear to him you're going to do the daf. It's all. And he got engaged. So it's a big mazel tov. Come to Rai, mazel tov. They're talking to you, mazel tov. You missed it. I read an email about what? Tell them. Tell Yonason.
The Second Amendment.
I got the email today. They were kind of mitzvah. There's people that are meshugel davar echad. There's one mitzvah in the Torah for them. All right, the Masechta sponsored. Rabbi said there's food over there. Anybody want food? Can grab food. It's right over there. The Masechta is sponsored for the unity of Am Yisrael. Pinchas Kleerekoper the last day. Hatzlocha L'zechus Yosef Mayer ben Rochel and yidden worldwide. Pinchas Kleerekoper neshmat Zechrיה ben Moshe and neshmat Zechrיה bas Yosef. Pinchas Kleerekoper refuah shlima. Dvora bas Sarah. That's Gershon Ben Moshe's mother needs a refuah shlima doila. The mother of Gershon Ben Moshe. Pinchas Kleerekoper lezech nishmas imim rosi merushalam is bas Pinchas on a Yarzeit today from her children. Brain intact. Unleash your full potential should be zochet and acting and tremendous success in all my endeavors. Haris Hayoy Moshe Falik, first Yarzeit of Tamar Tzipara Bas Rabbi Yehuda Arya Aleh Shalom, and Mrs. who is Mrs. Tzipara Falik, Mechaneches La'alofim. She was some sort of teacher principal. Mordechai Sapoznick, the Zech Nishmas Horav Feivel Cohen, Horav Shraga Feivel, Ben Rav Eliezer Hakohein, Zechat Rochel. You know, Mordechai Sapoznick was at the Shabbos. Upon his first Yarzeit, may the neshama have an aliyah and maybe a melitz yosef for his entire mishpacha, his entire kehila, and all of Klal Yisroel. The fifth Pinchas Kleerekoper is our very own Jeff Rosner, who was also there for Shabbos. Lila Nishmas, his very young son, who learned here in Miami last year, and who's nifter. Lila Nishmas is Simcha Chaim ben Shlomo Yehuda on his first Yarzeit. May the neshama have an aliyah. Was a big zet and a clap for MDY and all of Klal Yisroel. Linishmas Menachem David Ben Nosson, his Yarzeit is today, and the art of the month sponsored Yosef Ben Chai Sarah for the schusim that come from supporting Limudat Torah. So I have a question for the Oilam. You hear, guys? Question: if Chachamim were misakin at takana, they made some sort of gzeira takana for your benefit. They wanted to help you out. You, Ruvain against Shimon. They want to help you out. Could you say, today, thank you, but no thank you. I don't want your takana. I want to do it differently. For example, there's a takana that a woman, she has to give all her earnings to her husband. In return, her husband supports her. Let's say she's a world-class lawyer. She says, no, thank you. Let me keep my own salary. No, thank you. Could you do that? Yes. So when there's a takana that Chacham say that you get a certain type of property, you lend money, get a certain type of property, or we're going to see. So l'chayra, a person could say, I forgo, thank you very much, Chacham, for your takana. Today, I'm not interested in your takana. L'chayra, you could do that. So that's one of the things we're going to learn about. It's interesting that up until now, we were learning very technical sugyas. Today, we're going to get into more of svaras sugyas. We're going to get into some very interesting svaras. So it goes like this. We were learning about the three types of properties. There's the idis, the beinarnis, ziburis. Idis is the top of the top. Beinarnis is the medium one. And ziburis is the worst. There are three types of people that collect money. There's a person that had damages done to him. He collects idis. There's a balchayv. He lent money. He collects beinarnis. What does a woman collect for a ksuba? Unfortunately, ziburis. That's just the way it works. Different svaras. When we learn ksubas, we went into why and where. So it goes like this. Rabbi Yarzeit, check this out. We have some very nice charts for this sugya. and for the following sugi as well. Eisvei, ein lo ela idis. So we'll go to the charts. If a person only has idis, and he has these three people that are collecting money, you have a nizak, a malva, and a ksuba. Typically, a woman only collects ziburis, but he doesn't have ziburis. He only has the top of the top. He only owns penthouses in Yerushalayim. So, very obvious, they all collect, as you see in the chart, they all collect from the idis. Beinanis, what if the guy only owns Beinanis? Again, very obvious, they all collect Beinanis. Ziburis, kulam, goivin, ziburis. Now, here's where it gets interesting, and here's where the Gemara is going to ask a question. If a person had all three, who collects what? Here's the answer, exactly what we said. A nizik collects idis, a malva collects beinanis, and you understand, you can't sit over there. I don't allow it. You got to sit over there. You got to face the screen. You said ADD, right? This is why we said about our share that ADHD stands for attention deficit. Hey, donut. And then he said, but when it comes to MDY, it's attention deficit. Hey, daf. Okay, so here you go. You have ziburis, beinanis, and idis. You have the three types of people that collect money. A nizik, malva, and ksuba. This is how it goes. The woman collects ziburis, the nizik collects the idis, and the malva collects from the beinanis. But here's where it gets interesting. What if he only has two? He has idis and beinanis. Now, obviously, the idis goes to the nizik, and the malva gets the beinanis. But what about the woman? She has no choice. There's no ziburis, so she'll collect from the beinanis. That's great. What about this case right over here? Now this is where the Gemara is going to ask a question from. This case right over here. If all he has is the medium type of property and the lesser, the worst of the worst, then the nizakin ubachoy bebeinanis, you can't collect something that the guy doesn't have. The guy only has a beinanis. So even the nizik gets beinanis, he drops down. The malva gets what he's supposed to get, which is beinanis, and the woman gets what she's supposed to get. The only difference here is the nizik. Uksubas isha viziburis. Idis viziburis. What if he only has idis? Now we're gonna ask a question from this case. So remember this case, we'll go back to it. Idis viziburis, what if he has two properties? The best and the worst, then nizakin v'idis, u'b'achoy v'ksuvasisha viziburis. Then you go down a step. The malva unfortunately cannot get his beinanis because there is no beinanis. Time out. Idis viziburis, nizakin v'idis, u'b'achoy v'ksuvasisha viziburis. There's a mistake. Okay. It should show the arrow going to the malva to the ziburis. Okay. I can't change it now. We'll have to change it later. I didn't do it. Okay. Just to reiterate what we said yesterday, the difference between ziburis and idis, it has the same value on the market. Just one is compact. It's like a small apartment in Yerushalayim. And the other one is like 20 acres in Idaho. They have the same value, just it's spread out on a larger area. And Rav Shteiman says it's a mashal to a person who learns b'ritzifa. So let's say a person learns without looking at his phone. Doesn't look at his phone. Every 2 minutes there's a text message, there's a WhatsApp. He puts his phone away. That's idis. You get compact learning. That has the same value as somebody that learns for 3-4 hours, and every 2 minutes he's picking up a phone, talking to somebody, and being distracted. So says the Gemara like this. We want to know, because yesterday we had a question. What does it mean, idis, beinanis? Does it mean that this individual has three properties? He lives in Idaho, and he has 3 properties in Idaho. He has a ziburas, beinunis, and idis. Or no, we're not looking at this guy. We're looking at the world. What is it in the world? What's considered idis? In the world, what's considered beinunis? So l'chayra over here we have a raya. Why? So let's go back to this case. If he only has the medium type of karka and ziburis, then those 2 people, the guy that got damaged and the guy that he owes money to, they go to the medium property. But if you go and you assess the property based on what this individual owns, he's in Idaho, or forget Idaho, what he owns, how many, usually people own 1 property, very successful, 2. So that goes by what you own. I have a property, I have a let's say a vacation property in Israel, I have a property in Miami. So for me, the property in Israel is the idis, and the property in Miami is the beinunis, let's say. But ask the Gemara, according to what you just said, look, why in the world, look at this thing, why in the world does the middle guy, the malva, take beinunis? You call it beinunis, but guess what? It's the owner's idis. It's his best of the best. That's what he owns. For him, it's the number 1 thing. Why does he deserve to collect from the beinunis? It's really not beinunis. There should be a sign on it called idis. Akopanim, something's up here. So what do you see? You see that we don't go by bishaloi. We don't evaluate the property based on what he owns. We evaluate based on the world. And in the world, Bet Shemesh, for instance, that's the Moshel here, Bet Shemesh is considered a beinunis. So that's why the Malva takes the one in Bet Shemesh. Because if you're going to base it on what he owns, for him it's idis. He only has 2 properties. One is in Kfar Sabra, one is in Bet Shemesh. The Bet Shemesh is his idis. So you see from this sugya that we don't care about what he owns. We care about what the world says and what the world considers. And the world considers Bet Shemesh average, mediocre. The Mr. Malva guy, he should only collect from ziburis. So the Gemara says a few answers on that. By the way, when it comes to this, I'm just throwing this out there because we're going to get into sugya soon. But when it comes to ruchnius, what do you guys think? When it comes to ruchnius, does Hashem judge you based on what the world does? Everybody else does this and this and this, or based on what you're capable of doing? What you're capable of doing. Hashem doesn't care. You have a certain kishrin, you're smarter than everybody, so then you have to do more than everybody. You have more zitzfleish than other people, you're able to sit more, then you have to do more. You have more ADD than other people, then you could do less, maybe. But Hashem is going to judge you based on what you're capable of. And he knows what you're capable of, and you know what you're capable of. So you shouldn't be saying, oh, but he only does this and this and that. It's not important what he does. So when it comes to you, you b'shalayim shamim. So anyways, the Gemara says, and this teretz, says Rashi, is going to go according to b'shalay shamim. In other words, we care about what he owns, what this individual owns. So it goes like this. Take a look at this chart right over here. Very pashut. Here, this is the case. The case is, in fact, the guy did have 3 properties, and one of them really is this, and it's in Yerushalayim, let's say. And today, Bet Shemesh became his idis. Why? Because he had a idis and it was sold. You see, it's sold. So we're going to look at what he has today. You're right that when he lent the money, he had idis, but it's sold. And the shibud means that there's a lien. Where's the lien? The lien for the malva is on the middle property. So that's all we care. Today, the middle property, the beinani, that's considered as idis. The reason why we call it beinanis is because once upon a time he did have 3 properties. Today he only has 2. But at the time of the loan he had 3. And in fact that's what Rav Chisda said. I'll prove it to you. It makes more sense. Because there's a mafurusha brisa that says the opposite of us. It says beinanis v'ziburis if the guy only has a mediocre one, and a ziburus, a bad one, nizakim bebeinanis. And over here it says different than what we said. Balchayv uksubasisha beziburis. Over here it says mefurish that the malva goes to the worst, not like what we said that the malva goes to the beinanis. So we have a contradiction. Where do you give the malva from? Do you give him from the worst or from the middle one? Kashin adadi. By the way, you understand, I feel bad that this is your first day here. It gets much easier than this. This is a tough one. You can handle it. So we have a contradiction. On the one hand, if you lent money to somebody, it says over here, he could only go after the worst property if you only have two, a medium and a worst. And by us, we said before that if he only has two properties, go to the medium one. Which one is it? So we must answer what we just answered. The one is where he had three properties originally, and now he's down to two. And the other one is where he only has two properties. Another pshat. I'm sorry. It goes like this. Okay. And we're not talking about a case like that he had a third one. So, and Rashi says it over here, we're going in Lo'ilam Shaminan. We're going based on what the world considers idis and ziburis. Loikashi. Oh, the Shavi Beinan Shaloi ki idis dalma. The second brisa, where it says that you go after the ziburis. You give the Bachayv ziburis. Because his medium one is like worth like the idis of the world. Again, this teretz is going that we have to consider what the world considers good and bad. His medium property, what we call medium, is actually in the world is considered top of the top, creme de la creme. It's the penthouse and the most expensive building in Miami. That's his medium. That's his mediocre. So if that's his mediocre, the Malva can't say, "Hey, give me your mediocre." It's not fair. The Malva doesn't deserve it, so therefore the Malva goes down to Ziburas. Because again, we're going based on what the world is considering, according to this teretz. And in our case, that the Malva does go after the Beininus is because his Beininus is not even not worth as much as the others. So you give him your Beininus. Stam a joke out there that because L'zechar Nishmas Mordechai Sapoznick was just nifter last week, 2 weeks ago. So a bacher came to him, a young man, just got married. He learned by him in yeshiva. He said, "Listen, I don't know what to do. We just got married, and my wife, she makes terrible food. Terrible food. I don't know what to do. If I tell her this, she's going to get insulted. If I say I like it, she'll keep on making it. What do I do?" So they were learning Baba Kama. So Baruch Mordechai said, "Tell her that her ziburis is like the idis of the world. Her terrible food is like the best food of the world." And maybe she'll get the hint. Okay, anyways. You have to know where Baruch Mordechai is Rachi. Do not try it at home. Not a good answer. I think he was kidding. Anyway, Zog the Gemara. Another pshat. No, we're going to go with another pshat. So the first pshat that we had was what? That we consider what he owns. It's based on what he owns. His idis, his beininus. The second pshat was we go based on what the world considers beininus. And now we're going to mix the two. Yishmak. No, his beinoni was like the beinoni of the world. Between the two brises. The second brise that says that the Baal Chayv gets ziburis because he holds that it goes based on what you have, and he had two properties. One is called a beinonus, one is called a ziburis. His beinonus is actually the idis because shaloyim sham. So you don't give the best, you give the worst to the malva. But the next brise holds, our brise holds b'shaloyim shamim. You have to consider what the world holds. And according to the world, your best property is only a beinoni. A beinoni you give to the Baal Chayv. Ravina Omar Bidula Pligi. So again, we're going to go back B'da'olam Shamina. So Ula says, the Omar Ula Dvar Torah Baal Chayv B'ziburis. Rabbi says it's very kedai to remember this. A lender, he could go after your medium property. Who said? So in fact, the Gemara is going to explain now that the Torah said he should go after the worst. But it's that the Takanas Chachamim, they go after the middle one. Why?
Because
nobody will lend money anymore. Very good. So it's the Takanas Chachamim. So now you understand that if somebody wants to forego the Takanas Chachamim, it doesn't work out for him. You could do it. Why not? According to the Torah, Bachai beziburas. A Bachai should only get paid from the worst of the worst. When you come to pick up your collateral, stand outside. The person that owes you money, he'll bring out the Aved to you. What's the minhag? The minhag is if you don't have to give more, you just give the least that you can possibly. So he knocks on the door to have collateral. So you give him the biggest shmat you have in your house. Like the guy came collecting on my door. He says, "I'm here for the mikvah. Can you please donate to the mikvah?" I said, "Sure." I went. I brought him a cup of water. You give him the least you possibly could give. That's how it works. Lamais, no, seriously. At the end of the day, that's how I started off. But at the end, he was good. This guy, what's his name? Zipson or no, I forgot his name. Ended up getting there nice, whatever. We have a room there. Baruch Hashem. Took like 10 years to open, but it's there. And you think that the first part is true. Not the second part is not even true. Whatever. Zog the Gemara. You give the least of the least. So why, in fact, do you have to pay the lender with your median property? We don't want people to stop lending money. We had yesterday, you could even pay back with a bunch of bunch of garbage. You have all these things that people don't want to lend money because of this. So we have to make it easier to lend money. Don't worry about it. You're going to get a median property. The first price that we had that the lender gets his better property goes according to this ula that we made a takana for him. The second brisa doesn't hold of this takana, and you give him the worst of the worst, and that's why the second brisa says that the lender gets the ziburas. Just someone to get to here. We see in the parsha that ever in the beginning he said, "Oh, don't worry about it. I don't want any money." And of course, Avraham Avinu showed him the 400, and his eyes widened. Oh, okay, fine. He takes the money. Rav Shvahdron just points out that when it comes to, a lot of people think, when I get older, when I get more mature, when I 50, 40, 50, 60, my midas will change. I'll become a better balmidas, etc. He says it's a mistake that people make. That people should work on their midas when they're younger, and they have an easier time. Because when you're older, the same bad midas remain. Sometimes it switches and it turns into another type of taiva or whatever, but the midas always remain the same. You see here, and he said a mashal, he said a ma'aser shahaya, that he was at a place where a guy was dying. He was on his deathbed, and the guy was trying to give his family musar, and he said to his family, "I'm sitting here dying. If somebody gave me money now, I would grab it and put it under my pillow." And the guy died. He was trying to make a point that even when a person's 1 foot away from the caver, he still has taivas mammon, which doesn't make any sense because what is he going to do with that money? But that's how it is. Zog the Gemara. Tana Rabbana. Machar le'echad or l'shloisha b'nei adam ke'echad. So we have a chart for this. Oh, everybody, I hear the symbols for. There's karka that's meshubad, meaning if you borrow money from somebody, then there's a lien on your property, and that lien, you come and you collect money from the. If he doesn't pay you in cash, you come and you take his property away from bnei chayrin, from available properties. Now, if you sell the property, and that's the only property you have, then the lender could go after that property that you sold. That's called meshubad. Properties in general are meshubad. So the lien follows the property. You can't get out of it. If you sell a property, till this very day, there's something called a lien. So if you sell a property and you didn't do a title search or whatever, then you owe the money. Whoever was owed money on that property could go after that property. That's called meshubad. So a person could have b'nei chayrin. You first come to him, and he has to give you from his real estate that's free to pay back. What if a person has two properties and he has a loan and he sold one property? The halacha is you can't go after the one he sold. You go to the bnei chayrin. You go to the one that's not sold, the bnei chayrin. You don't go to the meshuvim bad. Okay, says the Gemara. This guy owes three people. He got divorced, so he owes a ksuba to his wife. He damaged somebody's car. He's a mazik, so he's chayv to the nizuk. What does he pay the nizuk? Idis. What does he pay his wife? Okay, so Rabbi say we're holding like 17 lines from the bottom of Daf Amud Beis. Tanur Rabbanan. Just to see, you can see on the chart over here. A nefraim and a chazim mishua abadim. You cannot go if you're a lender. You can't go after sold properties that have a lien on them. When there's other properties available that the borrower still owns. Okay. If somebody sold either to one person right away, three properties, or in one day, it doesn't matter, one is in the morning, one is in the afternoon. In one day, he sold his three properties to three different people or to one person. Kulam nichnesu tachas haba'olam. So here goes. Since this guy, what?
You said Amud Beis, Amud Aleph.
Amud Aleph, yeah, Amud Aleph. I said Amud Beis, fine. So since this guy owes three people money, he owes a ksuba to a wife and a malva and an izuk. So each one gets, here you go, he sold three properties to three people all in the same day. Here goes, boom. So each one goes to the person that bought the property. The guy that bought the ziburas has to pay the wife. The guy that bought the idus has to pay the nizuk, etc. That's if they bought it all in one day. What if they bought it here in 3 different days? On day 2, another guy bought the beinus. On day 3, another guy bought the ziburas. So they all go to the last one. Why? I explained. Since you cannot go after nechasim shuabadim, you can't go on a property, you can't take a lien on a property that was sold if he still owns another property, even if he sold it after he borrowed the money. And even though the property that remains by him is not that good of a property, ziburas, you still go after the ziburas. You go after the buyer when you don't have a choice. But if he owns a property, you go after that property. So since ziburas was the last one on the list that he sold, you go after the ziburas. Yichab? You with me?
Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah.
Rabbi Davis, you with me? You look like you're still in London, Epis. You're just like, okay. So you'll watch it again later. Again, a guy had 3 properties. Zibur's Beis Yidis. He sold them to 3 different people, 3 different days. So you go after the last property, the Ziburis. Why? Because that was the one that was available last. That's the one that he held on to the longest. And all 3 people go to that property. And if that last property is not worth enough to pay all 3 people, then you go to the one right before that, to the Beinus. Then you go to the Idus. Asked the Gemara, how do you sell 3 properties to one person? If he sold them all in one shot, in one document, that's why does the Gemara have to say that? If I sell to 3 different people, one at 9 o'clock in the morning, one at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, one at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, all before Shkia, they're all considered sold at one time. Where it's possible that one was bought earlier than the other. Nevertheless, all 3 become instead of the owner. So certainly if you sell to one, it must mean when you sell to one person, you sold in 3 different days. As the Gemara, how come when it comes to 3 people, you tell each person says, go to the last guy. When I bought my idis, I left a beinus and a ziburis, and when the guy bought the beinus, he left the ziburis. Just go to the ziburis guy. Don't come to us. So when one guy buys 3 different properties on 3 different days, why does he have to give away his best property? He should say, when I bought the best property, I left 2 properties at the seller. When I bought my second property, I left 1 property to sell. Go to the worst property, the last one. Says Gemara, you're right. It's a great question. But over here, we're talking about a special circumstance. You're right, you go to the last property, but guess what? The last property happens to be the best property. Who told you that the case was Idis Ben Ziburis? It was Ziburis Ben Idis. His last one was the Idis, and that's the one they go after. Ask the Gemara, let everybody come and get the Idis because that was the last one. What happened? Ruvain bought 3 properties. He bought a Ziburis. The next day he bought the Baininus from the guy. The next day he bought the Idis from the guy. Come the 3 collectors, the wife, the Nizik, and the Balchayv. And they come to him and say, pay. L'chari, you should have to pay from the last one, which is the Idis. So the wife in this case will get the best of the best, not the Ziburis. So he says, no. Each one of you better take what you typically deserve. You woman, you get Ziburis. You Balchayv, you get Baininus. Don't come to me for the better stuff. Why? Vilai, he threatens them. Madrana started the Ziburis Lamare. I'll do some trick. I'll give it right back to the seller. And you'll all get Ziburis. I'm going to send back the Ziburis to the seller. And therefore, what's the halacha? You don't go after Nechasim and Shu'abadim if there are B'nei Chayrim. The guy that owes 3 people money to begin with, he has a Ben Chayrin. He has his own field. It happens to be Ziburis. All of you, B'chayv also is not even going to get Baininus. He's going to get Ziburis. As the Gemara, Achi, Bin Zakin, Namine Achi. How come he can't say the same thing to the Nizik guy? If you don't be quiet, you'll go straight and you get your Ziburis. Alachim Ma'askinon B'yasme. So the Gemara just slugs up the whole thing. Everything we just said now, we have to be talking about a different case, and therefore nothing really works. And we're back to the original question. So what we're talking about, that the guy that owes all these people money, he died, and he left orphans. The Labnei Pirayinu, they don't have to pay. They only have to pay the Balchayv and everybody else if the father left a field. Now, he didn't leave anything. If they're going to get it back, so this shibud of the guy that sold the koina is that he himself he's mechuyev in it. The bottom line is we're talking about an interesting case. There's Yisayim here, and you can't go after them. And anything that comes to them afterwards is considered as if it's not from the father. It's their own thing. If they got back the field, if somebody gave them the field and forced it back, it's not as if they had a field when the father died that they have to pay from it. It's like a brand new thing, and therefore it doesn't work. If it doesn't work, so it doesn't work in all the cases. The bottom line is, why is it, if he bought the Idis all the way at the end, why does the Bachayv not collect? Because the answer is like this. If he bought the Idis all the way at the end, why the Chachamim? Aaron, tell Eliza that I'm in the middle of sharing here. Why the Chachamim? Big schus for me. I think Aaron was in one other share of mine in all these years. Schus, my son Aaron. Were you at a share? Where are you? In Ramat Shemesh. I remember you came in, but you were there for the whole thing? There's no chant. So, he could say like this. The whole reason why you want to come to me and grab from this, the whole reason why Chacham said that we made a takana, and in front of that you can't come after Meshubad if there's Ben Chayrin. They're just trying to help me. I know about the Kanta Leinichali. I don't want this takana now. That's what we said established in the beginning of this year. If you don't like this takana, then you can do away with it. The reason why if a person has one field left, the reason why we take from the last field, we should take from this, is for his good. But over here, it's not for his good. It doesn't work. It works against him. So therefore, I don't want the takana. And where do we see this idea? If a person says, I don't want takanas chacham, it's for my good, and today I'm saying no thank you, like this, we're going to see what like this means. He's allowed to say that. What is that? A woman could tell her husband, thank you, but no thank you. I don't need your food. I'm Michael Toivus. I earn a lot more money than you, and you don't need to support me. I'll support myself, and I'll have my own bank account. So, fine. There was a guy that his wife wasn't feeling well on Erev Shabbos, and doesn't say, fine, I'll take care of everything. He baked chalas, made the cholent, did the whole thing. She comes out of the room, and she looks around, and she sees that he's on top of everything, and beautiful Shabbos, fish. So she went back to her room, and she remained sick for the rest of Shabbos. So he goes to his Rebbe. He says, I understand. What did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? I thought I was being a good husband. So he said, no. What you should have done is, you should have bought like a can of gefilte fish and some bad challah from the store. Like this, now she feels like she's unappreciated. Whatever she does and she works hard, you can do it also. And Lamaisa, I'm very makpid on that also. You have to be careful. You can't really help that much at home because a woman could say, I don't want you to help me. You don't get my money. I don't get your help. Shalom Yisrael. Pshita. We're going through a few cases here. So I think we have a chart for this. Oh, here. Let's just see the terrace of Rava here. He bought this at the end. Okay, it's a whole little thingy going on here. Okay, we're up to here. You didn't even get it. You didn't get to this daf in yeshiva. No way. Daf ches in yeshiva. Okay, yeshiva. You went to yeshiva only learned 3-4 daf the whole year. He doesn't know. Okay, fine. Yeah. Then for sure not. If the seller had 3 fields and he sold the beininus and the ziburis, but he left the idis for himself. What's the halacha, Rabbi say here? Look at this. He sold 2 fields, then everybody comes after him for the idis because that's what he has left. And you don't go after Meshubadim when you have Bnei Chayrim. And in this case, the Bnei Chayrim are idis. So they all gain. They all get the best of the best. Because this is the last one left. They're not by him, that he could say, go after the mediocre one and the bad one. You can't do that. So he could just, they go, over here he can't say, I don't want the Takanas Chacham. They go after him. They go after the Zibur, the Idis. But what if he sold the best? Here. What just happened? Oh. He sold the Idis. Is that it? No. Hold on. Mochar Idis. Here we go. He sold the Idis. It's interesting the way. Okay. And he left the Benus and Ziburis. What's Allah? Somebody wanted to say, also Kulu Govu Rabbi Zai. Do we have another sugi after this? Yeah, a little bit. We'll do this quickly. He left the 2 bad ones by him. So Abai thought that's like in this case, like in these arrows over here, they go and they get this. But it's not true. Because what did the guy sell? He sold everything that he has in his property. He sold them it all. He sold them all what he's entitled to that he also sold. Not just the property, but anything, all the other stuff. And since if they came to the original guy, he would just defer them to the Beinanis and the Ziburis. And even though when he sold the Beinanis and the Ziburis, he still did this. And you can't go after sold properties when you have something. But he could say, the Kitzer, he says, I want to be like you. I want to have all your schusim, and that's why I bought it. I bought it on the condition that I could be like you. And since you could defer to the Beinas and the Ziburas, so can I. I'm not giving from my property. If Ruvain sold everything he owned, I remember, you could look it up, I think it was a guy in Australia that sold everything he owned. All his property, his house with all the furniture, all his clothing, all his shoes, and he even sold, I remember this, he even sold all his friends. That's what he said. He was selling everything. Everything. He was left with his passport and money from the sale. So this is what the guy did. The guy, people now in New York are doing it. They moved to Miami. They leave everything in New York behind. Everything. He sold all his real estate to Shimon. I don't want to have anything to do with New York. Here's the chart, boys. There he goes. The guy owes money. But Ruvain has 3 fields. Look what he did. Boom. He sold them all to Shimon. Look what Shimon does. He sells 1 field. And we're going to see. The Gemara is going to really squeeze it until we figure out what it is, but it basically is the Beinanis. He sold 1 field. And then the Ruvain owes money. So the guy could collect, right? Because he had a lien on all these fields, on all the 3 fields. Now, who does the guy collect from? Shimon, the first purchaser, or the second purchaser? He could go after any field he wants. Shimon and Levi. Now the Gemara is going to squeeze it and figure out exactly what we're talking about. It's talking about because he sold the medium one. But if it was like this, Rabbi Isai, if he sold the Ziburis and Idis to the third guy, then he cannot come after the third guy. There's a reason why I bought those 2 properties and didn't buy the mediocre one. Why? I wanted because I wanted something that they're not going to come after me. And even in a case, like we said before, where he took the medium one, the mediocre one, it's only because he didn't leave another Beinani by Shimon. But if he left another Beinanis by Shimon, then the creditor, the guy that's owed money, cannot come after Levi. I left you, when I bought my field from Shimon, I left you a place to go grab from. There's another Beinanis there. So again, the Gemara is saying, when could the Malva go after Levi? Only when he buys a Beinani property, and he did not leave another Beinani property by Shimon. And now a very, very easy few lines here, and then we're done for today. Reuven sold a field to Shimon Bachrais. Typically, every field that you sell is Bachrais. Almost. And then comes the Bachayv, let's call him Levi, and he grabs the field away from Shimon. Says Gemara, very simple halacha. Could Levi tell Reuven, the original guy that sold the field, I don't know who you are, get out of here? Or could Reuven go to Bezdin and testify and invoke a shvuah and make Levi's life miserable? Here's the question. Reuven owed money to Levi once upon a time. Reuven went ahead and sold his real estate to Shimon. Now Levi is going after Shimon because there's a lien on Shimon's property. Where does Reuven come into the picture? Reuven was the original owner, you're right. And Reuven was the original borrower. Does Reuven have a right to show up in Bezdin? Yes or no, Rabbi Isa, yes or no? You hear the question? Reuven borrowed money from Levi, and he was tricky, he sold his real estate to Shimon. And now Levi knows that he has nothing, he's not going to get a dime out of Reuven. So he goes after Shimon, because there's a lien on that property. Could Reuven help Shimon out in Bezdin? Or Levi tells Reuven, get out of here, I don't want to see you, you're a bad guy, I don't know who you are, etc.
So the price he go after, right?
Who, Shimon?
Yeah,
Shimon go after Reuven. Correct. So what are you saying? It's a no-brainer.
Yeah. You said I'm selling it to you.
Says our attorney.
Debt free.
You're an attorney, right? And you're also an attorney.
Michael and Michael.
Michael and Michael. You're going to say machlokes because you're not an attorney. So Gemara says, they're right. Do you know who? Very simple. The Azar Reuven. He has all the right, Reuven, to go there. Not only go there, he could say, I want you to swear that he didn't pay you back. And Levi, the lender, cannot say, who are you? I don't know who you are. Because he could tell him, of course I have something to do with this, because if you're able to remove the property out of Shimon's possession, I'm going to have to pay Shimon cash for that property. It was with a guarantee, like every property. And some say, even in a situation where there's no guarantee, because he could say, I am going to show up here, and I am going to stick up for Shimon. I dive in the same shul as him. I don't need Shimon to be mad at me. I need to stick up for him. Rabbi Sai, have a wonderful day. Yishkan for coming out here. Tomorrow at 2:00, Motzi Shabbos at 9:00. Shkoyach, thank you, Michael, for the cholent, for all the good food.